so many of us as Christians, we are not making progress in the marketplace. The opportunities for us to impact government, impact economy, impact nations, impact leadership, impact health, impact education, impact so many aspects of everyday life is lost because we have confined ourselves to such religious context that has no place in the marketplace. Don't hide in the corner. Don't be that one in the boardroom or in the meeting or in the team context that has this brilliant idea, but you're quiet. Let your voice be heard.
We are the salt of the earth. We are the light of the world. We are a city set upon the hill that cannot be hidden. Why are we hiding?
Shine your light. You know, the Bible says, arise and shine. Just go and do that. Arise in wherever you find yourself. Arise and shine.
Thank you for tuning in. And this is part 2 of this full episode. So if you haven't seen part 1, make sure you watch part 1 so that you can get the full gist. How do we articulate what we are feeling in the present moment?
Yeah, there are many ways. So I do in my coaching what I call embodiment. And Bimbola, you'll be familiar with this practice. Yeah. So there are many ways. Embodiment is a way. Embodiment is a somatic healing process. So this is the understanding that your body, your physical body, when you move it, when you shift it, when you manipulate it, when you get in motion, you are beginning to move and shift energy. So one of the things that I do in my coaching to help individuals who feel stuck in their emotions is I encourage them to move their bodies. Sometimes I run a therapy process where I play certain types of music that invokes certain types of emotions so that they have the opportunity to use their body to express that emotion out. So if you've ever been in a bad mood, just shaking your body, just really shaking your body. Like you can even do this right now, shaking your body, moving, all of that.
I feel energy all over me already. I hope you guys are doing the same thing that we are doing.
Shake, move, scream, shout, do whatever you need to do. And when you have a moment of pause, you will literally, it's impossible to not physically feel a shift in your state. So one of the first primal ways, this is a very primal part of our capacity, is using your body to express emotions. So sometimes I will support clients with, if they're feeling rage, I will play very sort of heavy music where they can jump and scream, or music that have really heavy drum beats so that they can move through that charge. If it's an emotional pain, like a heartbreak, I move them through certain music that invokes that sadness to come out so that they can actually let those tears come out. They can release the scream, the sadness, or whatever. So the first way of moving stuck emotions is utilizing your body. And I think this is the missing in the coaching industry. The coaching industry tells us it's all in your mind. Fix your mindset. But there's a wisdom in the body. There is an ancient code in the body. There is an intelligence of the body that can tell you that you have trapped emotion in your shoulder. You have trapped emotion in your back. Your pain is trapped in your knee. And it's when you give attention and focus to releasing that energy in those parts of your body, that's where you get your fullest release. It's a very subconscious part of transformation. Like if you are able to tune into it, it will help you actually make much more faster progress than just trying to rewire your mindset. That's one of the first modalities that I introduce in my coaching, embodiment. The second modality is journaling. Writing things down. I actually have a forgiveness practice, a letting go practice. I shared it on another platform that I was speaking on last week. And when I was struggling with forgiveness, I was really struggling. It was a relationship breakup where I felt so wrong. Like as in, they just did me wrong. And I knew they would never come back to say sorry. I knew they would never come back to apologize for the things that they did. And I also knew that unless I felt like I had a sense of justice, I would never be able to move on from it. So I had a process. The first process was I wrote a letter. It was never going to be a letter that I was going to send, but I wrote it to express all the things that I felt. I wrote all of my emotions, the bad ones, the good ones, the rageful ones, everything that I felt, I wrote it out. And then the second letter, I now wrote a letter to say, okay, if this person was to come back and apologize to me, what would I like them to say? And then I wrote a letter on all of the things that I needed to hear to help me to heal. And then what I did with both letters, I read the first letter, which was my angry letter. What I did by reading out that angry letter, I gave expression to how I felt. I wasn't bottling it up anymore. I wasn't pretending anymore. I gave voice and validation to how I was feeling. And then when I read the other letter, which was the letter of forgiveness, the letter of apology, the letter that I wanted to hear, I gave myself capacity for compassion. I gave and I opened myself to healing and love and peace. And when I embodied that experience, I burnt both letters and I made a decision right there and then that this is no longer part of my journey. So that's a very practical way of dealing with emotions that are very hard in real time, writing them out, but also writing the desired emotion that you'd like to have. And there's something really powerful about burning or ripping or tearing, those kind of emotions, because what it symbolizes is that you have truly severed yourself from those emotions. You've let go. Fire is an alchemist. It has a capacity to transmute and change things. And so when you use that fire as the experience of burning away what no longer serves you, you give yourself capacity to really receive the true love. And I think I'll finally end on this point by just saying, at the end of the day, our ultimate example of forgiveness is Christ. There's no greater model of forgiveness than Christ. Even when he was on his last breath, the final thing that he said was, Father, forgive them. And so if Christ can forgive those who crucified him, what more again?
So that was a whole lot to unpack about, how to get ourselves attuned to our emotion. And I think that was just a beautiful gift that you have given us, because like you said, there's a whole lot of missing links when it comes to coaching. And, and you've been able to actually find one that is really spot on, being able to, channel the emotions in the right direction, and then be able to help the person to, find the way out of whatever way that they are feeling and all of that. And that was really, really profound. And, I think you mentioned something about when you were talking about people are often expected to forget, but the brain is made to actually store memories. 100%, I think I agree with you because, I'm very big on reflection. Because for reflect, if you don't have memories, to fall back on, you can't leverage on the intelligence that your reflection can actually give to you. You can't learn from experiences that you've had that can actually help you to make better decisions going forward. So I think the aspect of you can forgive, but not necessarily forget, so that you can actually, it can continuously be like, what is it called now? A treasure that you can actually continue to dig wisdom from that helps you to make the right decision at each point in time. So, I didn't want to forget that because, when you said that, that was the thought that came to me about, not necessarily forgetting, because that's like a springboard that can actually help you, to the next level. And so the other question that I now had in my mind was, how do you sharpen your cutting edge when it comes to personal development? Especially when you feel life has beaten you down and you don't know where to go next. How do you sharpen your cutting edge in such a way that you are able to get back to original design? Like you've been saying, your authentic self, you go back to God in your rawest form, and then and God is able to, take some things out of you, give you new things and help you, give you the new vision. That's spiritual, but like we are living on earth, you understand? And there's a whole lot of noise out there. There's a whole lot of fake it till you make it out there. There's a whole lot of vision of people that people are aspiring to be, but the things that they are doing does not align with God expects of you. So how do you sharpen your cutting edge to be able to actually, arrive at your original design?
Yeah, so I have a process that I take people through when it comes to, transforming their lives. It's a 4-step process, but I recently added an extra process. And I learned this is an acronym that I learned from a colleague of mine many years ago when I went into his office, and it just totally blew me away, and it's stuck ever since. And it's a formula called ERIC. I've since added another layer to it, which is now called Erica. Yeah, bringing that.
I was hoping to be Erica.
Right? So, yeah. So if you want to stay at the cutting edge of your personal growth, your personal development, and you can actually use this in any context, actually. The first thing is the E in the Erica formula, and the E is for eliminate. And this is where you're asking yourself, what do I need to let go of? What cannot follow me into this new version of who I desire to be? It might be habits, mindsets, behaviors, patterns, people, situations, environment, context, whatever it is. The question is, what do I need to eliminate from my life in order to help me to be the best version of myself? And what this question does, it starts to help you to prune out things that are no longer needed in your life. The moment you start pruning out things that you don't need in your life, the moment you start opening up new capacity to receive the things that you do need in your life to help you to get to where you're going. So that's the first step. The second step is the R, which is reduce. And this is the question around, okay, I can't eliminate everything. I can't, get rid of all of my family. I have to be at home. I have to stay at this job. But what can I reduce in my life that I know is actually not helping me? It might be that I'm watching too much TV where I need to be reducing that time so I can focus on this master degree that I've started. Or it means, I need to reduce the amount of time I'm complaining and moaning about my husband or my wife or my children, because complaining is not making a difference in my life. So reduce is asking you to think through, what can you do less of so that you can become much more efficient and optimized in your life? The third part of the acronym is I, which is increase. And this acronym is asking you, what can I do more of that will add benefit to my life? What can I increase in terms of the things that I know has gone well in my life? What can I continue to do because I've had previous success in that area? So increase means, what can you continue to do better and more in order for you to get to where you desire to get to? The C, there are two elements to the C. One is about what can I create? And two, how can I challenge myself? So when you're creating, you're asking yourself, what do I need to do differently that I've never done before? What new thing can I bring into my life that I have not had the experience of, but will help me to learn, become better, expand my horizons, open my perspective, make me a well-rounded person? And then the challenge is about, how do I push myself? Where is it I've been stuck in my comfort zone that I really need to push myself out of? What habits need to be completely disrupted? What patterns? Where have I constantly said, oh, I'm just an introvert, I don't like going out? Where do I now need to change that perception and change that narrative and challenge myself out of that? And then the final part of the acronym that makes the Erica piece is A, action. Action and accountability. No transformation can be made without any action being taken. But with action, the need to be accountable for your actions. If you say you're going to do something, you need to be accountable for it. Accountability ensures that you take the action that you said you were going to take. Accountability also ensures that you have someone that's checking you to see how you are progressing. Is this the progression that you're supposed to make? And then the final part of the A is alignment. It's my favorite one. It's what makes up the fourth letter in my community coaching brand, alignment, which is, don't just take action for the sake of taking action. Always go back to source. Is this action in alignment with what God will have me do? Many of us have taken transformative actions that God has not signed off on. We've been frustrated that we have not seen the progress. We've been frustrated we have not seen the transformation. Why? Because the action was not in alignment with God, with what God had said we should do. So with action must come accountability, and it must be entrenched in alignment. If you follow these 5 steps, it will always help you to sharpen yourself. It will always help you to think through, what is that next version of myself I'm aspiring to get to? And they're very practical things that you can literally do in any context.
Amazing. So talking about alignment, how do you, handle opportunities that do not align with kingdom values? How do you recognize, opportunities that can sabotage your kingdom values? And how do you handle it? How do you maneuver? How do you, sort of, get ahead of those kind of seemingly maybe traps that that this, if I put my neck inside this, it's going to be, trouble. How do you align? How do you, align those opportunities, or how do you, see them a mile away and probably just say, no, I don't think I'll go for this?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. Wisdom, I think first and foremost, you have to know what you stand for. And you also have to know what is the wisdom that is required in order to help me make a decision that I can go left or I can go right, or I can take this opportunity. I think we are always exposed to opportunities. Not every opportunity is for us to take, even though every opportunity is one that we can take. What makes a difference in terms of, do I take this opportunity or not, is you having a very clear sense of what you have been called to do. And I think we should also kind of disrupt this notion that an opportunity that does not have kingdom principles is an opportunity you automatically should not take. Why? Because the Bible tells us that we must be gentle as doves, but also as wise as serpents. When you think about a serpent, the first thing that ultimately will come to mind is the deceptive ways in which The serpent deceived Eve and Adam and ultimately the fall of creation. But if the Bible says that we must be gentle as dove and wise as serpents, there is a wisdom in that being wise as serpents that is still required in order for us to navigate the real world. And I learned this again from my mentor, Dr. Larry Olushola. Because when he gave me this understanding, or gave us as a community this understanding, I began to realize that so many of us as Christians, we are not making progress in the marketplace because we have trapped ourselves into this false understanding that things that are not kingdom principles are things that we should engage in. Right? The Bible tells us that we should be not conformed to the world, but we live in the world. Right? And then we get frustrated that other nationalities, other religious faiths, whatever they've got going on, they excel, they progress. But why? Because they're using principles. Right? They actually do find themselves in kingdom principles. The problem with Christianity, I feel personally, is that we have really limited the box in which we have placed God. God cannot be placed in a set of our own notion of what we call kingdom principles. What do we even define as kingdom principles? For me personally, I believe that there are spiritual laws and spiritual principles. The laws of the universe are one and clear. You give, you receive. You sow, you reap. You attract what you put out. These are principles that guide most of the decisions that we should be making. When we religionize certain principles, we close our minds out to the expanded context of what these principles are supposed to be. I personally don't feel like kingdom principles is a thing. I feel like what is more important is understanding, what have I been called to? What has God said go and do? It is that I judge whether I take this opportunity or not. And there will be certain opportunities that will be in violation with what God has called me to be. It will be in violation in what I believe based on my faith. And so because they are in violation, I will definitely say, no, this is not for me. But I think we need to, as Christians, break out of this mindset that you cannot thrive in the world and still be a Christian. You can thrive in the world without violating your Christian principles if you are carrying the values that you hold. And I think this is such a sad part of our faith as Christians, that the opportunities for us to impact government, impact economy, impact nations, impact leadership, impact health, impact education, impact so many aspects of everyday life is lost because we have confined ourselves to such religious context that has no place in the marketplace. You know, if we are in Christ and Christ is in us, we must be able to enter into any industry, any sector, any space, and we bring the light to that space. The Bible says that we are the salt of the earth. The Bible tells us that we should not hide our light, but we should be a light that stands on the hill so that we can shine bright. But we're too busy judging what everybody else is doing. These ones are religious because they believe this, because they practice this, because they do this. We are so concerned with all of the things that other people are doing. We have not used our own context to say, how do I use the power that is within me, the knowledge that I have, to impact the world? I'll give you an example. New age stuff. Everybody's like, no, as Christians, you must not meditate. No, as Christians, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, because it's all new age. But actually, when you do your history, when you go and read the source and the origins of where some of these practices come, you will find it came from the Ancient of Days, Christ Jehovah himself. But we have lost so much of that truth that we miss out. So now we have the new age people, they're doing all sorts of things, they're thriving, meditating, blah, 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 making progress in their lives, and we're hating on them. But actually, they are using the principles that God gave us as a principle, as people. But they are using it, they've packaged it, they've known how to utilize it. They've gone off to make transformation in the world where they're busy pointing fingers, judges. So, yeah, that question about kingdom principles and how do we ensure that we're not, that it really gets to me sometimes, because I feel like that is one of the missing links in our Christian walk. We've missed out on opportunities to make changes in the world because we've been so concerned about the religious context of things. Of course, things like devil worshiping, now what we already know. No one is, as a Christian, will go and find themselves in that kind of opportunity. Of course not. But to deny opportunities because, the Bible doesn't say this, and it doesn't say that. Where are we in the marketplace? Where is the voice of the Christian in the marketplace? And yet we are the ones that house the actual divinity of Christ himself inside of us. But where's the level of impact that we have in the world?
Wow.
Sila.
You didn't just break the table. You dismantle the whole building right now, because that was profound. That was phenomenal. And oh my God, like, I didn't know that was the question I was going to bring my coach out of. I was just going to make you like, no. I heard that's the coach back that I wanted to see. Like the Bible says, we are the salt of the earth, we are the light of the world, we are a city set upon the hill that cannot be hidden. Why are we hiding? And like you said, and I think where a lot of the misconception comes from is the four walls of the church. The four walls of the church, what the church expects of you, and how religion has conditioned us. And you've spoken so much about the subconscious conditioning that a lot of us have gone through. And a lot of Christians have not even taken their time to even understand what the word says about them and what the word has commanded them to actually go out to do. Because Jesus said, go ye into all the world and preach the gospel. He didn't say stay in the church, but what Christians have decided to do is to stay inside church and be preaching to people that have already given their lives to Christ. What's happening to the world that is still dark out there? How do you take the Christ that is in you, who is the hope of glory? How do you take that same Christ to the mountain of tech? How do you take him to the mountain of coaching? How do you take him to the mountain of economics? How do you take him to the mountain of government? These are the issues. This is why the Mountains of Influence podcast exists, because we need to understand that the four walls of church and go you into the world and preach the gospel, they are two different things, because the kingdom is not the church. The kingdom is you actually going out there. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. We need to let go of religious dogma. We need to let go of all of these religious things that has caged us, that has not allowed us to actually, like you said, our God is boundless. So why have we decided to put him in a box of this is how it should be? Because we need to be progressive and be as wise as serpent, like you have said. We need to continuously be innovative in how we show up in the world. So that, because the Christ that we preach is the best thing there is. But how are we even presenting? How are we showing up? How are we showing up in our cutting edge to be able to show that, look, if the fact that you're associated with Christ does not mean that you are mediocre or that you are not the best of the best. You just need to know how you're showing up. And that was just amazing. And, I think you dismantled a whole lot of mindsets and a whole lot of things that is shrouded in confusion or in things that people do not. You lifted the veil. That day that Jesus died and the veil tore. I think that's probably what you just said now is going to do to a lot of people's minds, because we can't continue to do counter what the word has actually told us to do and expect God to actually, be happy with us. Also, as we round up, and as we have spoken about alignment, and you have, spoken so much about our community, the mega woman. So can you tell us a bit more about what it means to be mega, about this feminine power, this feminine energy that you exude so much of, so, and I think it's just a perfect question to, to follow, because we've spoken about alignment, talking about alignment from the Erica, and then now alignment in, when you are in the marketplace. Now let's talk about alignment in the mega community. Tell us about your community.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for asking that question. So the Mega Woman community is a community where I birthed to help us as women tune into the feminine essence and the feminine energy of who we are as we lead to transform lives, nations, societies, and every space of influence we find ourselves in. And one of the things that I realized in the coaching that I was doing, which is what birthed the Mega Woman, is that a lot of women operate with masculine energy. So they operate like men. They are wired in their thinking, their approach, their outputs in the way a man is. And this is not a good or bad thing. It's just an observation. But one of the outcomes that happens, or I observed with women who operate in that way solely, was that they ended up being women who were exhausted, burnt out, overwhelmed, tired, drained, and unable to really, really step into the radiance of who they are as women. And so I birthed the Mega Woman community because I wanted to support women on how to do four things, which is what the acronym MEGA stands for. So MEGA isn't actually a word. It's an acronym that spells MEGA. And it stands for four principles within the community. The first principle is the M, which is magnetic. I wanted to create a community where, as women, we learn how to be women who are magnetic. A woman who is magnetic is a woman who is high vibrational. In other words, she exudes a high frequency such that she attracts into her life the things that match that high frequency. So she's a magnet to her desires. She is a magnet to the things that bring joy into her life. She is a magnet to the things that will allow her to thrive and flourish and bear fruit in her seasons. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that A mega woman, any woman who is within the community, learns how to be a woman who is easeful and elegant. In other words, she understands that in every space of life, through every challenge and every mountain, there is always a path of least resistance. Meaning, I can go through hard things. My heart can be broken right now. I can be challenged right now. But I know that there is a way in which I can navigate this challenge without losing myself. I can navigate this challenge so that when people see me, they don't see my challenge. They see the glory of God moving me through my challenge. And so a woman who is easeful and elegant learns to rely on God to pull her through. She learns to trust in divine flow. She learns to understand that God is the source of my supply. Therefore, I will look up from whence cometh my help. The G stands for a woman who is graceful. And the graceful has two components. One, she's a woman who is gracious. In other words, she extends grace to other people because she understands that she is a recipient of God's grace. She understands that there's nothing that she has become of herself had it not been for the grace of God. Therefore, when she sees imperfection in other people, when she sees things that could easily make her judge other people, she steps into the capacity of empathy and compassion and extends grace because she knows that she as well is not perfect. She knows that she needs the compassion and love of God and others. And so a woman who is a mega woman knows how to extend grace and receive grace. And then the final piece, the final pillar that holds up the community is the alignment. And this is my favorite. Alignment is actually my favorite word. Because at the core of everything we do in the mega woman community, it must align with who and what God has called us to be. So in other words, alignment is a woman who is purpose driven. A woman who understands the mandate that God has given her, and she steps into the full embodiment of that mandate and runs with the vision that God has given her. So every decision she makes, every contact she engages in, every context that she finds herself in, she's always asking the question, does this align with who and what God has called me to be? And it's those four pillars that make up what it is to be a mega woman. And it's those four pillars that I teach around in the mega woman community. Women like yourself who have embodied what it means to be a mega woman, going out into the world, sharing your voice, making an impact, transforming life. This is the outcome or the desired outcome of the mega woman community, to release us out into the world and to do that which God has called us to do from that place of those four pillars is what we stand
Amazing.
for. And thank you.
Amazing. I'm so proud to be a mega woman any day, anytime. I mean, no, it's an amazing community, and the wisdom, the collective wisdom that all those beautiful women bring together. Oh my God. It's not something that you can go to the supermarket and just place an order. No, it comes from within. It comes from lived experiences. It comes from, just them being, just that being, and it's amazing how you're able to draw out those, those intelligential, from each and every one of us, and we're able to share as a community. So as we wrap up, this kingdom journey, kingdom leadership journey, it can be lonely. And getting into a community like mega woman community is not it's not everyone that will be able to afford to be in that kind of community. Let's face the fact, you understand? But someone is out there and saying like, how my friends are not, they think I'm too serious, everybody want to do this, but I know that this is the way I should go and all of that. So how do you find your own kingdom company to keep you on track? Your own praying company, like you've mentioned, and I'm so I love how you're so proud of your mentor. That's a kingdom company that you're found, someone that you're able to align with. Alignment again. This word. There's no one to leave us alone on this episode, but it's good. You understand? So, how does someone find, their own kingdom company that helps them? Because I think when you have a company, even Jesus had his own company. He had his inner caucus, he had the 12, then the 72, before the 5,000 now even came. So you can see all of the cycle. So how does someone out there, how do we find our own, leadership kingdom leadership company that helps us, at least so that the journey is not lonely? Because I know it's something that you can attest to. Sometimes it gets lonely because you are so focused on what you want to do, and every other person around you is just still trying to figure it out.
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is, for anyone who resonated with what I shared about the mega woman community, if you are a woman that feels that this aligns to you, there's always space for you. Okay. My platform is an open platform. I have other resources where you can join and be part of the community. And of course, as Abimbola said, there are paid opportunities for you to enter into that. But if you are looking to find your own kingdom community, as you've mentioned, I think first of all, you have to be clear on what you're looking for. A lot of people send me messages, oh, I would love for you to be my mentor. I really want you to be my mentor. And I say to them, okay, well, what is it that you want me to mentor you on? What do you see? And they don't have an answer. And I generally don't mentor people who can't give me an answer, because it means you haven't done your homework. You haven't gone to really think, what do you need? What is missing in your life that you need me to help you take you that journey, right? So I think anyone looking for a community, in whatever community it is, you must first of all understand why you want that need. Because if you don't, you will just enter different spaces, and in entering different spaces, you're not going to get anything. If anything, you might end up confused, you might end up overwhelmed, you might end up just all over the place. So I think the very practical thing is to assess your life, do what I call a life audit. Stop and ask yourself, what is missing? You know, what do I need right now? Is it a community of women that I can come and feel like I'm in a safe space and share my thoughts and my emotions and whatever else? Or is it a community of, leaders who are transforming the tech space or transforming the finance space? Really be clear on what it is you're looking for. Because when you're clear on what you're looking for, you will begin to attract those things that you're looking for. It's the operation, the human mind has what we call the reticular activating system. It's a biological process, which means the moment we attach a focus to something, our brain will now heighten our awareness of that thing in everywhere we go. It's a classic example where you buy a new car, right? Before buying the new car, you never saw anybody driving this car, same color, same model. The moment you start to drive your own car, that's where you realize so many Toyota Corolla that's blue in this particular shade of blue with this particular model. Why? It's not because all of a sudden the same day you decided to buy the car, everybody else decided to buy the car. It's because your mind became focused on something and brought to your attention the thing that you were focused on. So this is why I say knowing what you want is the first step to finding yourself in that right community. Because when you know what you want, you will begin to open up an awareness of like-minded people, like-minded communities, like-minded platforms that match the thing that you are focused on. The second thing that I would say is when you do find a community, don't just be a taker in that community. There's nothing more disheartening than having community members just come, sit down, take all your value, take all your knowledge, take all your expertise, take all the transformation, and they don't give back or they don't utilize it. So when you find yourself in a community, or before you find yourself in a community, be willing to be an active participant in that community. And that can look like different ways. It can look like you sharing your knowledge with other people in that community. It can look like engaging in that community. It can look like you embodying the learning of that community and then using it to transform other people in your own community. But one thing is, don't enter into a community to just be a spectator. That's not how community works. When you enter into a community, be an active partaker of that community. Give and receive. Let it be symbiotic. And when you have it as a symbiotic experience, you actually gain much more for yourself, as well as add back into the value of the community. So those are the things that I would say, will support you in helping you find the right community. Know why, know what, and then be willing to partake when you enter that community. If you do those three things, you will find yourself flourishing in those communities, transforming those communities, and really making an impact in the world that extends beyond yourself and to everybody else that is
amazing. So what does the future hold for your mountain of influence, and what will be the role of the kingdom?
So I have a vision that's very clear, to awaken the modern African woman specifically. I feel like I've been called to a woman who identifies with her African ancestry, whether she's on the continent of Africa, in the diaspora, or has historical connections back to Africa. The vision is awakening her to the full essence of her feminine power. In other words, helping her to tune into the wisdom of God, which, by the way, is a feminine energy. If you look at Proverbs 8 describes wisdom as a feminine essence. So every time we talk about feminine energy, I really love to tune into the fact that feminine energy is actually wisdom. And so in other words, then, it is a vision to awaken us as women to tune into the full expanse of God's wisdom, so that with that wisdom, we transform lives. And transforming lives doesn't mean we are out on the big stage speaking to hundreds of thousands of people. Transforming lives can start within our immediate context, our children, our spouses, our brothers, our sisters, our cousins. Right? And then extending that influence out further and further. By extension, when we transform one child's life, we have given them a capsule of transformation for them to go and transform their own generation. And so for me, the vision and what the future holds is just growing as a community, growing as a community, me growing as a leader to support that community. And ultimately, as a collective, we are going out, spreading the message of feminine energy, spreading the message of feminine power, spreading the message of what it means to be a mega woman, so that more and more women understand this and, live transformed lives from that transformed space as well.
Amazing. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. And definitely, African female presidents will come out from there.
Absolutely. That one is a done deal. It's that one is, it's already happening. We already are seeing, we're already seeing, obviously we're seeing African female presidents arising, in countries like Namibia, the latest one. And so I'm very confident that even in this our Nigeria, one day we will have a president. I'm convinced of it. And I'm very certain that woman will come from the
yes,
woman.
best believe. Yeah. Wow, amazing, yes, amazing. Indeed. Wow. So one final piece of advice for your fellow marketplace apostles.
Shine your light. The Bible says, arise and shine. Just go and do that. Arise in wherever you find yourself. Arise and shine. And your shining is everywhere you step into, every room you step into, possess the land. It was Joshua that had the instruction that wherever your feet tread, you will possess the land, you will own the land. So take up space. Don't hide in the corner. Don't be that one in the boardroom or in the meeting or in the team context that has this brilliant idea, but you're quiet. Let your voice be heard. When you step into that meeting room, as you enter into that meeting room, as you feel your high heels or your shoes step onto that place, internally recognize that you possess that land and go with that knowledge that you house Christ inside of you. And so because you house Christ inside of you, every word you speak is not your word, it's the word of Christ. This is one of the things that I do every time I speak, whether it's coaching, whether it's a meeting, whether it's a public speaking engagement. I always say, Lord, let it not be my voice that they hear, but let it be the voice of Christ. And so every time you find yourself in a space, and it doesn't have to be an influential space like that, because every space is influential. Don't wait to when you have audience of the leaders. Don't wait to when you have audience of high profile people. Even the janitor in your workplace, the cleaner in your workplace, the receptionist in your workplace, the most person that you wouldn't consider to be as relevant, even they have a special place for your influence. And so I would say that for anyone who is really desirous of making an impact in the marketplace through their faith, just arise and shine and take possession of every space that you enter into, because that's what you deserve and that's what Christ requires.
Amazing. So where can we find you online? Where can we find you?
Yeah. Places to find me online: on LinkedIn, which is my name, Banke Sotomi. That's where you will get to experience my day-to-day as a senior consultant. I work for an organization called Delta. We're a leadership and inclusion consultancy firm. So you can see what I get up to in my day-to-day world. And then you can find me on my Instagram, which is my community platform, which is Mega Woman Community. And that's where you can come and learn more about what does it mean to be a feminine leader? What does it mean to embody your feminine energy? How can you really thrive in the world through the space of your femininity without burnout?
Amazing. Thank you so much, Coach Banks.
Thank you. I'm really grateful. And I pray that this platform is a platform that reaches millions around the world. Transforms the lives of every single hearer of this program. So well done. Really, really proud of you. Really, really
thank you. Thank you so much, Coach Banks. Thank you so much for coming. And that is the end of this awesome video. I'm sure it was value packed for you. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel and drop your comments below. Let us know what you are taking away from this particular episode, what resonated with you, what was the aha moment for you, what questions do you have for the guest. And of course, don't forget that we have more that we have cooked for you. So share this video with your friends, with your family, with your neighbors, with everyone that you know, and let them know the Mountains of Influence podcast is changing lives, is transforming paradigms, and it is here to equip you for the work of the kingdom in the marketplace. Don't forget, Mountains of Influence podcast is for apostles in the marketplace. Stay tuned and God bless. I am Abimbola Olivide.